Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for a special edition of Mature Living. Magda Soto and I, who have appeared on this show with Mary Yanez, today have reversed the situation, and we're going to interview her. Mary is celebrating lots of special dates right about now, and we want to start with her. I mean, she's kind of the queen of this whole program, the queen of the El Paso Community College TV. So it's her turn to shine. Not that she doesn't shine as an interviewer, but today it's her turn to shine as a guest. So Magda, thanks for helping me with this.
Well, of course, it's a big honor for Miss Mary. Thank you for having me here
yes,
with us.
it is.
No question.
2023 is a good year.
And you didn't know this was going to happen, though, did you?
This is quite a surprise.
You
yes,
thought you were going to interview me and Magda.
I was already with my notes and to interview you all about lots of good information for our community. But wow, thank you. Changing chairs here.
And we are changing chairs. And truthfully, you don't need notes with us because we don't shut up. So, but we will. Today we're going to shut up because we want to hear from you. And so I really want to go back, and then Magda will jump into all of this. But we want to know about you. First of all, are you a native El Pasoan?
Yes,
all
born
right.
and
Well,
raised.
you start there. Magda's a native El Pasoan too.
Are you too?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
You're a little longer than her, though. So
Just
longer.
a little.
go back to the very beginning. Let's even start at the hospital where you were born.
Wow. When I was born in 1943.
You don't have to give us the date.
That's quite a long time, 43. So, that's important. I was born in Segundo Barrio. I was born in the building, it was St. Joseph's Hospital. It was run by nuns. And it was on Overland and Myrtle, I think it is. And that building now is the Annunciation House.
Oh, is that right?
It still exists.
wow.
It's in the corner. It's kind of a funny European kind of building. And so all my brothers and sisters were born at Hotel Dieu. And so they had little books in those days with the footprints. And I didn't have a book. So I asked my mom, was I adopted? Am I adopted? I was a third of 6 children. And so that was a beautiful upbringing. And,
So you're pretty much in the middle.
parents. Yes, I'm the third of 6.
And boys or girls?
We had 4 girls and 2 boys in the Aguilar family. My mom and my dad is Raul M. Aguilar, graduated from Bowie. Early years, 1930s, and my mom did too. Jesusita Duarte Aguilar.
So I do have a question. Were you a first or second generation then U.S. citizen?
Yes, I'm probably second generation.
Oh, so your parents were born in Mexico and came here?
My mom was born in the United States.
Really?
And my dad was born in
Wow.
Mexico. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so you're 1.5 generations. So,
Beautiful parents.
so your mom was born here?
Yes.
Wow,
yes.
that's all right.
That's amazing.
So then they met, had kids. Did you grow up in Segundo Barrio?
I went to school at St. Ignatius for up until 10 years old, and then we moved to Central area in Pershing and went to St. Joseph's parochial school. And I was a big athlete there, I have to brag. I was the captain of the volleyball, captain of the baseball team. Captain,
Oh my gosh.
yes. And just played all the sports. And I was just, I guess they elected me as most athletic girl for the school by the time I was in the 8th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, Miss Mary.
I love saying that because, you got to brag about something.
Well, you have a lot to brag about. So you were an athlete. Magda was a cheerleader, and
Yes.
You were a cheerleader.
they only found me under the bleachers. So that's my claim to fame.
I loved that. Was a good. Those
I think
were good
growing
years.
up here, I'm fascinated. Yeah, I grew up back east. I'm New Jersey, New York. I think growing up here must have been fascinating.
Yes, it was. It was a small, big town. I think it's always been kind of a small, big town. I went to El Paso Tech High School, and that doesn't exist anymore. I'm still going to reunions, but get this, the alumni shrinking. So we're inviting people from Bowie and Jeff and in Austin and anybody that wants to join us to fill the ballrooms. But yes, those were great years also in high school.
I don't know if you recollect. Years ago, we did that show on high schools.
Yes.
And I can't remember. Do you remember who we had on with you?
Stallworth, the wife of Mr. Stallworth from El Paso High. We interviewed, and then we interviewed some El Paso
But
Tech people.
didn't we do one with you and somebody else from Tech?
Yes, and I don't remember who
Yeah,
it was.
Where was El Paso
hey,
Tech?
listen, this show's been going on for 32 years. How many people have I interviewed? Have we interviewed? Because
but Magda just had a question. I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry, where was El Paso Tech?
It was on Arizona Street. It was a beautiful, no district school, so we got to meet kids from Sleda, came from that area, West Side, Northeast. They came from everywhere, from South El Paso. And so even though they lived in different areas of town, we were El Paso Tech students, the Lions.
What is it? Is the building still there?
Yes.
And what is it now?
It's probably a technical school right now, completely, not a high school.
So when you went, was it a vocational school?
It was a high school vocational.
All right.
I think it was probably the first magnet kind of
Right.
concept.
Yeah.
Like Jeff is for
Medical, right?
And I believe Bel Air is also medical. Maybe I'm not.
I think probably you're right. I know.
Austin is,
I'm
I
not
think,
sure.
law enforcement. Different kind of magnet schools.
Actually, that's pretty impressive. I never knew what I wanted to be until I was like in my
Yeah, I know it is.
But where I kind of not disagree, but I see it differently, and maybe Magda does too. You said it was always a small, big town.
I think. Yeah.
When I got here, it was a small town, I thought.
Yeah, compared to New York.
Yeah, but look at the difference. I've been here almost 50 years. We've been here longer than she's been alive. So that kind of
way to go, Magda.
That puts it all in perspective. But man, you must have seen huge changes in this town.
Yes, and I think that's one of the things that that amazes me about growing older. Is things get full up here, and you have more memories, and you see more technology changes, and just amazing things. And I think that's the value of older folks, because we have experienced a lot of changes and a lot of progress in our town and technology and all kinds of stuff.
When you were at, and I just kind of want to get a concept of size. When you were at Tech in high school, do you remember how many high schools were in town?
Pretty much the older ones: El Paso High, Bowie, Jeff, Sleda, Bel Air was.
Austin must have been there.
Austin's one of the older ones. We didn't have a Chapin, and we didn't have a Pebble Hills High School.
You didn't have Carnata, you didn't have Hanks, you didn't have Montwood, you didn't have Franklin. I mean.
And this is amazing about this town, Magda. And you were born and raised. When you meet somebody, maybe out of town, and they were from El Paso, what do we ask?
Where'd they go to high school?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I love that.
I love that about us.
We have pride in our high school, so it's definitely an El Paso thing.
Sorry.
Yeah, right. They say, where do you go to high school? I said, Trenton High School, and they walk away.
Okay, that's good.
It is fascinating.
It is. And actually, I'm just realizing, Mary, that you're the same age as my mom. And she actually grew up in Fabens. My dad from San Elizario.
Oh, San Eli, yes.
And they would bus him to Ysleta High School. So I'm just imagining you were there back then, and it was a much different place, El Paso.
I graduated in 1961.
Wow.
Music, oh my God, rock and roll. Rock and roll and bands, tea dances in the schools after school. We would have tea dance on Fridays, and with real bands, and they were all teenagers. The best.
I mean, it does. It sounds. To me, it sounds like I picture it almost like a TV show from the 50s. I did not know El Paso existed when I was growing up. To me, it was just in books.
Yes.
But the whole idea of growing up here just sounds wonderful to me. But the dark side of it, I don't know if there was one, but what about sort of the prejudice, the bias? That did it exist? Did it not exist? Did it exist and you didn't feel it?
I think adults were feeling it, but I don't think the children were. I never felt, maybe a little bit of individual student bullying, which is happening
still
now,
happens,
but
yeah. Worse now.
I was a fighter.
What?
With your
You said
baseball
what?
bat.
She was the athlete.
Yeah. I was very, very little and thin, but strong.
So, I mean, I remember things like that, the whole, the Crest building that they're redoing.
Oh, Cres, downtown.
What was it like downtown when you were growing
I remember
up?
my aunt taking us downtown to eat at the Crest, and we used to call it Cres.
Right.
And it was a department store kind of a store, and the counters and the ice cream and the floats, and the ice cream sundaes. But I also remember the Colon, the Mexican theater, the Colon on Paisano, and I think it's on North Mesa, I'm not sure, Oregon. But the Colon next to Casasola. And I remember her taking us, my grand aunt, my grandmother aunt, she would take us to see Cantinflas.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we were little, and it was a treat.
I remember him from Around the World in 80 Days. But did you say next to Casasola?
Casasola.
The photographer?
Yes.
That stuff is fascinating, isn't it?
Yes. I just saw a picture of my mom and dad's wedding picture, and just a beautiful, I can share it with you. And it said Casasola Studio at the bottom. And that was in 1939.
They were running. They were running a section of the El Paso Times, I think it was, for a while, where they would have these pictures that, and I think a lot of them were taken by Casasola, and it would say, do you know this person? Do you remember any of that?
Yes, and I have seen some people that I've known. A wedding picture.
Really?
I said, that's my aunt and uncle.
Wow.
And then I called them and I said, I can identify.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is very
and I think
neat.
I remember about downtown, mentioning downtown, the Plaza Theater. Oh my gosh. It's like Back to the Future, The Plaza Theater was stunning, velvet chairs. I used to go to the movies. As a matter of fact, my dad would drop the 3 little girls he had, the older ones, with a quarter on Saturday mornings for cartoons. And so he would give us each a quarter, and that paid for our going into the movies, our popcorn, and our drink.
Wow.
Can you imagine that with a
Wow.
quarter? And we were so happy, and it was safe because he'd drop us off. We'd go into the theater. Everybody took care of all the children, and we would watch the cartoons. Now, Mary would leave the cartoons, okay? And I would go downstairs to the lounge, the ladies' lounge. And I would sit there in those mirrors, and I would pretend that I was a princess. Because I loved that, the carpet, the velvet, stools, the ambience of that room, that lounge. And I still remember that. Isn't that the weirdest thing? To leave the cartoons to go and do my thing and pretend.
I love that. You were preparing for your days right now.
Well, as nostalgic as that is, actually, I've always heard that one of as you're getting older, and if you have long-term memory, you better watch out, because that's like maybe an indication of. So whenever I have a long-term memory, I always think I better figure out what I did yesterday.
Yes.
So I offset my long-term. But I just find the growth in this town, and again, I was not born here. I've been here a long time, but the growth in this town, phenomenal. I mean, I think El Paso is probably, it's just this jewel that nobody really knows about.
I think so too. Magda, I know some people that have left El Paso for careers, and they've come back. And the reason they've come back is to help their elders, their parents. And when they come back, they're so happy. I'm like, wow, we're back home. And for the reason of helping family, but also I think El Paso kind of grows on you.
Oh my God,
and your roots, they're in Los Angeles or New York or Austin, but they come back.
I mean, listen, the people, the biculturalism, the weather, the affordability,
The food.
the food.
That's why I've had growth. Let me tell you. I've experienced growth and food. They come for the food. It's a tradition, they get off the plane and they don't even come to grandma's house first. They go to Chico's Tacos.
Yeah, right.
Yes, number one on the list.
It's like tradition. So they're not going to come so early. They'll maybe drive from another town and I know they're going to stop there before they get to my house. I say, hey, meet me there.
Well, and
I'll meet you there.
I think this town is a perfect example of 6 degrees of, what is that? Of separation. 6 degrees of separation.
What is that?
Because it is now, I agree with you, I think it is a big, small town. Because you'll be, first of all, never say anything bad about anybody because they're related. You
never
very
know.
much so.
That has happened to me, by the way, and I've learned that lesson.
And, well,
You learn lessons,
Right?
after my dad died, we asked my mom to move down here, and she did come here. And I mean, these were some of the happiest years of her life here because of the people she met and just the whole ambience of the town. But the first thing I said to her was, don't say anything bad about anybody, Mom. Nobody.
And the weather's good, too.
You're gonna. The weather's fabulous.
Weather is great. Yes.
But look at look at the roads, look at the buildings, look at the expansion. And personally, I don't know why. Yeah, and it's perfect for retirees.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes, what are they doing over there in Florida?
I don't get it, right? We have the mountains. It's a beautiful view
and
wherever you look.
the affordability
Yes.
of it is fabulous. All right, so now getting back to you, have you been in the same house for a while?
I lived in the same house after I married.
Now, there's a rumor you've been married 7 times, but I've said no, you haven't been.
You know me. I don't make the same mistake twice. I do not make the same mistake twice. But I had 3 children, Catherine Ann, Tony, and Eileen. And my oldest child passed from open heart surgery, very young. But, with Tony and Eileen, we carried forward as a single parent then after that, after a divorce, and so never married again. So I'm still single. But you know what? Not by choice. And somebody asked me a long time ago, Eileen said, Mom, how come you never remarried again? And I said, nobody asked. That's how I live.
I think
I make fun of everything and about
I
life.
think you're a pretty independent person. I
don't think anybody could really stand
it. You know what? I agree with that statement. I do.
Is high, Mary.
I'm too busy. I'm too busy. Sorry, I gotta go.
I still kind of want to stay on the personal stuff, but what? And we're going to get into this later, or another show. But what was it in your childhood or your upbringing that made you want to be such a force in the community?
I think the modeling of my dad. My dad was he had a job, he had 2 jobs. They had a little confectionery store on Tays Street.
On which street?
Tays,
Okay.
T-A-Y-S, and it's between 6th and 7th in the Segundo Barrio. And my dad was always helping the community. He was a notary public, and he would, do do paperwork or, translate, papers for the community for $2 or or things like that, you know. And sometimes they didn't have money to pay, and he'd do income taxes as well. And they would give him a watch or a pendant as payment. So sometimes he'd come home with the weirdest things, like a playola, or what is that? One of those
Victrolas where you have
Victrolas, and my mom says, "Get it out of here!" So he'd have to take it to his office. So he had his little office, and that was like his kingdom, you know. And he served the community.
And that's kind of where you got it from.
I think so.
What you were talking about your kids? Are either of them here?
They're out of town. Tony lives in Virginia, Arlington, and Eileen lives in Katy. So I get to visit mostly Eileen because she's got the kids and the grandkids and the great-grandkids.
Wow.
So I kind of maneuver that way, you know. When Tony lives farther away, the visits are less.
And it's harder to get there.
Yes.
Yeah, and more expensive.
And more expensive.
Where did your kids go to high school?
My daughter went, my son, of course, he's the older of the two. He went to Cathedral, and my daughter went to Bel Air.
Oh.
Yeah, and really great. Tony's a computer engineer, and my daughter is in accounting. She's got her own business, mostly home, you know, taking care of the children and driving them to robotics or to this or that, you know. So.
What I also think it's interesting about this town is, if it's possible, how many people just stay. And I'm actually thinking of Magda now. You know,
Magda, are you going to stay?
Of course.
Yeah.
But it's like did your brother leave town to go to school too, or no?
No.
Okay. But her two sisters are here. Their kids are here. Her brother's here. His kids are here. Her parents are here. They want to have a Christmas party. They have to go rent a hall because what did your father have, 11?
There were a family of 17.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, huge family. And I think that's what's so important. I think it's very El Paso. Me and my siblings all live in the same subdivision, well, except one sister. So we all could be in the same street. It'd be great.
Which sister is it not there?
Naomi. We're still trying to pull her in.
Okay.
Naomi, if you're watching.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Naomi, that was directed at you.
Yeah. And it's interesting, when my brothers went to college, they started UTEP, but then they left, one to Austin and the other one to Dallas, but then they both lived in Austin. They never came back.
Yeah.
So I used to take my mom to visit them. And so my mom and dad would go visit them in Austin. But the boys left. They never came back. The girls stayed. All the girls stayed.
Right?
I think they're working very hard at trying to develop an economy here that will keep people. My girls all left, but primarily because they found jobs in different parts of the country. They would love to come back and raise their kids here. It's a wonderful place.
They come and visit you?
To raise their kids. You know, truthfully, at this point, we visit them. It's a lot easier. It's the two of us to get on a plane, as opposed to, they all have kids. Plus the fact Jane, you've met Jane, my wife.
Yes.
I mean, she can spend 24/7 with the grandkids.
Oh, yes.
I spend an hour and then need a drink.
I hold the baby a little while. She's heavy.
Take the picture.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. They're good to look at.
Something to look forward to.
What do you, and this is going to be kind of a segue into the next segment we're going to do, but what do you picture? What do you think El Paso sort of should, because you are very involved, should focus on, should try and accomplish?
I think that we need young people. We need their brains here. We need to have a progressive city with a good economy. People have a hard time making ends meet. And so having jobs that pay is really important. We've had a bad rap of being thought of as a low-wage city, and we need to change that.
And I agree with you 100%. Look, we have, I think the community college itself is one of the highest rated community colleges in the country, and you know, it has all of these wonderful campuses. It does all these wonderful things. And then we have UTEP, and I don't know if you've been to the campus over there recently, but it's incredible.
Yes, the growth,
Beautiful
buildings,
Oh, what they've
state-of-the-art.
done over there.
Yes.
So I think.
And I worked at UTEP, by the way.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I worked at UTEP. As a matter of fact, the one memory that I have as a young woman, when Kennedy got shot, it was a Friday, and I was in my car eating a tuna fish sandwich. And I had the radio on, and it came on. It was around noon, and that the president had been shot in Dallas. And it shocked me, and I ran inside the liberal arts building where I worked in supplies and duplicating, which is the same career that I started here at the college, being a duplicating supervisor when I was hired back in 1973. But this was in the 60s, and I went in and told them, so everybody started listening to the radios, and we didn't have TVs in the offices at that time, or any way that we could see the news, but that was a memory. I was working at UTEP at the time.
Again, a segue into our next part, but where were you first, at the community college or UTEP?
UTEP.
And then you came over
from,
here.
yeah.
And so the education you got at Tech was for what? It was secretarial, it was, I mean, what were you there for? Because it was
it was DE.
Which is what?
Which is working, getting a job. So my senior year, I'd go to school in the morning, and I'd go to a job in the afternoon. Distributive education.
Okay.
That's.
I don't know
even think they call it that
No, they
anymore.
don't. But I know what you're talking about.
Kind of like a DECA type thing, right?
Yeah. And so I started working in my senior year at Margie's corset shop.
Corset shop?
Margie's corset shop. Isn't that a word that we haven't heard in a long time? And I was in charge of the inventory, taking inventory of all the brassieres and the corsets and this and that. And I thought I was big. I thought it was a big shot because I was in the basement with all the inventory and made sure that we reordered, when we were running low. And I think it was wonderful what she did, Margie Bishop. She was my first boss. And she used to fit women that had mastectomies.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, so on that...
That's interesting.
Well, it is interesting, and you can tell we're the same generation, because you say corset, I say girdle. I started, and they say Skims. Okay, we are out of time in this segment. It went quickly.
I hope I haven't told too many secrets.
Listen, I want to thank everybody for showing up for the special edition of Mature Living. We're going to have another one that we're going to do. So it was an El Paso Community College TV production. We thank everybody involved with this production. Stay tuned, because we're going to be back soon. Thank you.